Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Hope you are doing well. It's the end of the week again, and the weekend is right around the corner. We are in May, and a lot of things going on this time of the year. We've got tomorrow is May the 4th, be with you. And then Sunday is Cinco de Mayo, which is not Mexican Independence Day. It's the celebration of La Batalla de Puebla, the defeat over the French of Mexico over the French. And it's celebrated more here in the United States than it is in Mexico, actually. And of course, Mother's Day coming up, so and graduations and just a lot of stuff. Anyways, this is In the Raw, unscripted, unpracticed, unedited conversation. And I have a question for you. How difficult, or maybe how easy, depends on every person, I guess, but how difficult or how easy is it for you to love an enemy? Now, you might say, well, I don't have any enemies. I don't have any enemies. And we might think we don't have any enemies, but they're there. I mean, we might not see them as enemies, or we may not perceive them as being somebody that we are fighting against, because that's what enemy, that's what we define it sometimes, somebody that we fight against, or somebody that but really an enemy is somebody who doesn't think like us, somebody who doesn't agree with our way of thinking, or somebody who has a different lifestyle, or somebody that we don't agree with, or somebody that that is different from us, and those could be our enemies. And it is difficult. It is difficult. Jesus, he was teaching in the Bible, and he said, the law says to love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I say, love your enemies. And he says, bless them and bless those that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Wow, he put it very difficult for us, right? He's telling us a lot of stuff here. Love your enemies, bless those that curse you, and do good to those that hate you. Pray for those who despitefully use you and persecute you. And this day and age, there's a lot of hate going on. There's a lot of people that are promoting hate towards each other, and it's easy to get involved in those ideologies or those ways of thinking. But we are called to go above all of that. We are called to be peacemakers. And the only way we can be peacemakers is to, do exactly what Jesus is saying here. And this takes me back to a story in 1 Samuel chapter 24, I believe. And it's about David. And David is fleeing from Saul. The king at that moment was Saul. And, David had been anointed to be king. And Saul, got wind of that, and he was very upset. And, he started a persecution against David. And he wanted to kill him, and and so David was on the run, and he got a hold of some men, and he was protecting himself, but at the same time David was vigilant, and he was watching his back all the time, as he was on the run. And at one point he finds Saul and his men. And Saul decides, and David's watching them, and Saul decides to relieve himself. That's how the Bible says, and he goes somewhere, obviously alone, to do that, to take care of his biological needs. And David sneaks up on him and cuts a piece off of his garment. And then he comes back to his camp, and his men tell him, why didn't you kill him? Why didn't you kill Saul? You had a chance. He was defenseless. He was, had his, distracted. And why didn't you kill him? And David responded, I can't put my hands on God's anointed. And, this is a way of saying, I have to love my enemy. I have to bless my enemy. Even though he's cursing me, even though he's despitefully using and persecuting me, I have to, do the opposite. And so, long story short, David confronts Saul after Saul, I think it was the next day or something, he confronts him and he says, "Hey, Saul, here's a piece of your garment. I could have killed you last night, but I didn't, because you are God's anointed, and I recognize that, I acknowledge that." And he said, and he basically had a conversation with him and said, "Why are you persecuting me? I haven't done anything wrong to you. I haven't done anything. I was anointed king. That wasn't my fault." And so basically he made peace with Saul at that moment. And the Bible says that they embraced, they cried, and David made peace with them by showing them that he wasn't out there to get them. He showed him that he loved them, even though he was considered an enemy, even though he was considered somebody that hated him and that wanted to persecute him. He decided, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to, because that's not my job. I'm not here to pass judgment. If God's going to do that, he's going to do that on his own, not with my help, is what David told him. And so David, he turned it around. And he was peaceful, and the reason why he was able to be peaceful is because he understood that it's important to love your enemies. And so as we are, we go out there in the world and we're living, and we see people that don't think like us. We may not think of them as enemies, but a lot of people may outright curse us. There are some people that curse us, that will despite us and will say things to us and will act against us. But there's people that are not. Either way, we need to love them. We should love them, because that's how we're going to promote peace, and that's how we're going to make them turn it around, just like David did with Saul. We're going to break them down, and they're going to say, "Wait a minute, what am I doing here? This person loves me. This person doesn't want any harm against me. Why am I doing this against them?" So as you confront situations like that with people that don't think like you or are against you, think about this. Think about what Jesus said. Think about what David did. All right. Hope you have a great day, great weekend. We'll see you soon.